Good morning, everyone. This is our health and fitness segment. That's the lovely Patty Pyburn you hear, and I'm your host, Randall White. You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore radio network, and it's time to talk about changing the conversation when it comes to food, specifically for our kids. And I've probably mentioned this on the show before, but in the late 80s when I was going to Cal Poly, I couldn't get in the business department. So I went in under a different major, which they do not recommend, and I understand why. But I went in under food science and nutrition. Mm-hmm. And in order to stay in school so that they don't kick you out, you have to take classes in your major every quarter, you know? So I found myself taking a lot of food science and nutrition courses. And there came a point where I thought, why isn't this being taught
just standard as part of the gen ed, general education?
It should be part, and not just general education for college students. This, I was thinking, should have been taught from a very young age.
Beginning. Mm-hmm.
To this day, I use what I learned in those nutrition courses more than I use any of the stuff that I learned in business or journalism when I went back for journalism school. Because, you know, every time I look at a label or something or a nutritional, what's in the food, I know the breakdown, and I know, and everyone should have that knowledge.
Right.
So we're welcoming to the show right now Carolyn Cohen. She's the co-founder of an organization called Food Fight. I love it.
That's a great name.
It is a great name. And
Thank you.
You know, you're based in New York, but the information that you have can easily be applied here in California, and hopefully will be on some level. Carolyn, what made you get so motivated about this topic?
Well, Randall, I feel like you actually just took the words right out of my mouth when you describe your experience in this course and your realization that everybody should have this knowledge.
Right.
You know, I really think Food Fight was born from that feeling, precisely. I was a teacher for many years in a public school in Manhattan and watched over those years, my students eat the worst foods and develop the worst palates, and really felt that same sentiment that, if our students and frankly teachers as well understood what they were putting into their bodies and how it was impacting their health and really their life chances, they would be making very different choices. And I set out to educate them in that way.
How do we go about doing this?
Yeah, where do we start?
Where do we start? It seems like a major shift would have to take place.
Right. So we really see schools as a platform for that shift and that kind of cultural change that would begin in schools, but would really extend to society at large, and like all great social movements, it often starts with the young. And we see teachers as a really important kind of change agent for starting that movement. And so we actually started with the students, and we've designed a curriculum to get specifically high school students engaged in this national conversation about combating the obesity epidemic and really look at the social and political and economic underpinnings of our food system and understand their role in it as a consumer. And that has led to specific and very exciting dietary changes in their lives. But in order to scale this initiative, we realized that we really need to reach teachers and that they can disseminate this information and serve as healthy role models for their students and get that information out, because as you know, and as you mentioned in the beginning, there isn't nutrition education anymore. Home ec is gone, and we kind of see this work as getting teachers to kind of provide that basic knowledge to their students, and it is pretty basic. It's a point that I think often gets lost in this conversation. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know how to eat, and our points actually about food, when it comes down to really about eating, are pretty simple. It really is something that young kids can learn and
should learn
at very young ages.
And should learn, Carolyn. It's funny when you think about other things that we are required to be educated about before we embark on certain endeavors, driving a car, selling real estate, or what have you, that we have requirements we have to meet. We all have to eat to stay alive, but there's no requirement that we understand how the food we eat affects our bodies or how it affects the world we live in.
Exactly. And, now with the new nutritional standards around the country, we see a lot of pushback among students, principals, teachers, because there is no understanding about the importance of eating healthfully. And so if you just switch out unhealthy foods for healthy foods without that educational component, that's the result.
You're getting resistance. It's funny, my children, but I had a different approach as a parent. I figured if they don't have junk food in the house to choose from and they have healthy choices, then, I just remember my sister complaining, oh, my son eats this, that, and the other thing. And I'm thinking, well, he's 5. He's not doing the grocery shopping. So why is that in your house?
Right.
So exactly.
I approached it a little differently.
All the time. My kid just won't eat this. And so therefore I give my kid, Oreos for snacks. Well, your kid doesn't like a lot of things, and you don't let your kid watch TV all day, and you don't let your kid not do homework, and this is another thing that you set down a rule about because it's important for their health.
So Patty makes a good point, who's doing the shopping. And then the other place that they might get meals would be at school. Mm-hmm. So that's a whole nother level. It's not just educating the kids, but feeding them properly as well.
Having good choices.
If you look at the menus at a lot of public schools, it includes Pizza Hut and Taco Bell and chicken nuggets and, fast food is what they're being served.
Right.
How do you address that?
Well, we come at it through this educational piece, and we have seen already how students who have taken our courses have been much more active and vocal advocates for bringing healthier food to their cafeterias.
That's
and
good.
Succeeded in doing that. And, we really believe that unless you're educated, unless you understand why the food in the cafeteria is so bad and you shouldn't be eating it, you're not going to demand change. And so that's the piece that we work on. And obviously, changing food in a cafeteria is entering, an enormous bin. I mean, it's so bureaucratic and
financial.
Yes.
Contracts with companies that have gone on for years that value profit over public health. So that is an enormous problem to tackle. And we believe the first step is educating students and school staff to demand healthier options.
And this food that's being served, it's nothing new. When I was a kid, I remember what I used to get in junior high and in high school. We didn't have a cafeteria. We had like lunch lines kind of thing. And I went and I would always get these Hostess coffee cakes.
Yes.
Little Hostess coffee cakes.
Yeah.
And also these pizzas that were served like in squares. I can guarantee you that they're not very good for you.
Yeah.
Right.
No more Twinkies, but they're not.
Carolyn, I really wish you the best of luck with your endeavor there in New York. And if on occasion you'll share insight that you find with us, that would be fantastic, because we'd like this to be a national change, not just state by state.
We are a national initiative.
Oh, good.
We would be very happy to come to schools in California and run our teacher wellness workshops and work with the students there as well.
Sounds good, Carolyn. Keep up the good work. It is foodfight.org, I think, right?
Yep, .org.
Yes, thanks so much.
Stick around, everyone. We're learning the art of chopsticks right after the break. You're listening to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network.